was the boogeyman.
As a matter of fact, it was.
What's going on, horror fanatics? Welcome to I Shot Him 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel. As you know, I'm your host and creator of the channel, Marcus, and in this video, I will be giving you all my top 10 horror movies of 2023. 2023 was a big year for the horror genre, with notable franchises such as Scream, Saw, and Evil Dead leading the way with new installments, along with many new projects that will go on to captivate the horror fandom. However, there are 10 films that truly stood out to me that made my list, and I'm interested to see what you all think about them and how my list may differ from your top 10 list. If you haven't done so already, please shoot this video a like. It definitely helps out with the YouTube algorithm a ton, as well as if you happen to be a new viewer coming across this channel, please shoot that subscribe button as well as that notification icon so you get all the latest content updates to the channel. Coming in at number 10 is The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. Now, I'll be the first to tell y'all that I'm not very big on the creature feature or monster side of horror movies. However, this monster movie is one that I actually enjoyed quite a bit. It was fairly brutal, had some pretty good kills in the movie. I loved the look of the monster and how he was put together, what he was made out of, what was used to make him. I am not going to go into spoilers, as I'm sure some of you have yet to see the film. But the brightest spot of the entire movie for me is the story and how it captures the tragedy of what our main character is going through in multiple ways, and how and why her idea for creating the monster comes about in real time, giving the monster a reason for audiences to sympathize with him to a degree, much like Frankenstein, which this film drew heavy inspiration from. So if you're a fan of Frankenstein or monster movies in general and haven't seen this film yet, be sure to give it a watch. Coming in at number 9 is Malum. For those who are unaware, Malum is a remake and expansion of the 2014 film The Last Shift from director Anthony DiBlasi, which over the last few years has grown in popularity in the horror fandom as an underrated gem. If you are a fan of cult horror, then this is the film for you. The expansion in the storytelling really adds a layer of understanding I think the original film lacked. The violence was far more graphic and realistic, far more bloodier and gorier than it was in the original film. And the actor's portrayal of the characters was far better performed in my opinion. Chaney Moreau as our antagonist and cult leader, John Malum, really captured the look and feel of what you would imagine a cult leader to be, and added a sense of realism that I really enjoyed out of the character. Overall, Malum is a great watch and is one of the better horror remakes to come out, and one of the best films in 2023, in my opinion. Coming in at number 8 is The Blackening. This film falls more in the realm of horror/comedy as opposed to horror/thriller, but it serves its purpose in more ways than one. I absolutely love the comedy in this film and how it pokes fun at stereotypes and different points of views from a social standpoint. I will say the killer was very predictable, which initially kind of brought the movie down a little bit for me, but then after watching it a few more times, when you think about what this movie is and what it is aiming to be, there was no real need to be serious and guess hard on who the killer was. So the predictability was actually quite bearable over time after watching this film over and over again. This film reminds me very much of a scary movie with better kills and a little bit more suspense. And if I'm being honest, this was the horror film that I had the most fun with in 2023, which is why it makes the list at number 8. Coming in at number 7 is A Wonderful Knife. I was really surprised and impressed with this film, and not only had a fantastic and notable cast, but as a Halloween and Scream fan, many of you know those are my two favorite horror franchises, this film paid great homage to both of those franchises, from the appearance of the killer down to the character names. But what I enjoyed the most was how the creators created a story that mirrored Happy Death Day's premise for their story, but found a unique way to take that concept and make it their own. And though it may not be higher on my list, this film is definitely deserving of a watch, and is also definitely deserving to be on this list, and is one of the better holiday slasher flicks to come out in quite some time. Coming in at number 6 is Five Nights at Freddy's. Even though most of us knew what to expect with this film in terms of story and who the killer was going to be, especially if you played the video game, the film still exceeded my expectations and gave a great adaptation of the video game story, and has now given the horror genre a new rivalry to follow, with protagonist Mike Smith and antagonist William Afton as they are working on a sequel to the first film. Adding the fact that Five Nights at Freddy's brings Matthew Lillard back to the horror genre, it's a no-brainer to have Five Nights at Freddy's on this list of top 10 horror movies of 2023. Coming in at number 5 is Talk to Me. Now, many of you know from me speaking about it on previous live streams that I have a hard time getting into more recent paranormal films for the simple fact that there has been so many to come out over the last 20 years or so, and they all, for the most part, feel like the same movie playing over and over again. However, that was not the case for me with Talk to Me. Outside of The Conjuring, this may be the best paranormal film to come out in the last 10 years or so in my opinion, but what really caught my eye about this movie was how they got different in terms of how the characters became possessed and the events leading into how the possession happens, as most exorcism films tend to have a religious storyline attached. Talk to Me doesn't go that route. Adding the fact that it has one of the best and most shocking finales in recent memory only gives the film more credibility as a bona fide top 5 film of 2023 in my opinion. Coming in at number 4 is going to be Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. Some fans are calling Thanksgiving the best slasher film of the year, and though I slightly disagree with this notion, I don't blame those who feel this way. This film is definitely worth the watch and attention it is receiving. Though the film didn't blow me away, Roth still gave us a very solid slasher with a slick-looking new villain who dresses up as John Carver, and a solid cast of characters we want to see grow beyond the first film, as well as some innovative brutal kills with references to classic 90s slashers such as Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. Thanksgiving is for sure a fun slasher whodunit that is worth its number 4 spot on my list. The only real knack I had for the film was that it failed to take risks of killing likable characters, as well as that the killer was too predictable, mirroring another slasher whodunit that is higher up on this list. Coming in at number 3 is Evil Dead Rise. The reason this film is top 3 for me is because I love the creative decision that was made to have the main characters and story take place in an apartment building as opposed to the traditional cabin in the woods, while still implementing the homage of having a cabin in the woods setting in the opening scene. This creative decision was a win, not just to get different and fresh for the franchise, but it also opens the door for an expansion of multiple storylines in different locations, as opposed to being confined to just one location and one setting. Adding the fantastic acting of our main characters, the consistency of blood and gore that is a staple of the Evil Dead franchise, and the fact that there could be a possibility that 2013's remake and Final Girl can eventually be fit into this timeline with our new Final Girls from this film only adds more credibility to the fact that Evil Dead Rise is a top 3 horror film for 2023. Coming in at number 2 is Scream 6. Scream 6 was nowhere what you would call a perfect Scream film by any stretch of the imagination, whether it was dialogue within the writing that didn't make sense in the overall grand scheme of things, or making the killer's identity super predictable and obvious, or not killing enough likable or main characters. There are definitely some faux pas in Scream 6 we wish we could tweak if not fix completely. With that being said, I still think Scream 6 is a solid enough Scream film and film overall to take the number 2 spot on this list, as the evolution in character work from our main characters and actors really carried the day for a film that didn't have its iconic final girl in Sidney Prescott, portrayed by Neve Campbell, in the movie. Add in the New York big city setting of the film, the idea to introduce aged out cracked Ghostface masks that belonged to the killers of previous films, and the reveal of 3 main killers as opposed to the original 2 killer concept that we have seen in 4 out of the 6 movies in the franchise, makes Scream 6 worthy of being the second best horror film on my list for 2023. And coming in at number 1, claiming the top spot on my list, is Saw X. Absolutely love this movie. The more I watch it, the more it grows on me. It is now number 3 best Saw film in the entire franchise, in my opinion, behind number 1 and number 2. Kevin Gruder and company did a fantastic job creating a story that not only doesn't hurt the original timeline, but more importantly fits and adds into the original timeline. But the main reason this is the best horror film of 2023, in my opinion, is because not only did it create a way to bring back iconic antagonist John Kramer in a story that not only takes place before his death in Saw 3, but they successfully turned a John Kramer villain and antagonist into the hero in Saw X, while introducing a new villain whose purpose seems to have a greater meaning, given how the film ended and sets up an 11th film that is being released later this year in September of 2024. Saw X is a perfect example of how you bring your main legacy characters back in a movie to tell a story that doesn't harm what was done in the timeline in previous films, while also providing a whole new story, creative direction, and location setting, which is why I believe Saw X is the number 1 horror film of 2023. But okay everyone, that is it for this video. Leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know what you think about my list of top 10 horror movies for 2023, as well as let me know what your top 10, top 5, or your overall top horror movie of 2023 is. Once again, this is Shime 6 Times YouTube Horror Movie Channel. I'm your host and creator of the channel, Marcus. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon. Thank you all for watching.